There are some children who never seem fully comfortable staying in one place for too long. They want to move, explore, try, touch, test, and experience life for themselves. They are often curious, energetic, spontaneous, and drawn to whatever feels new, exciting, or alive. These are the children who can make parents feel both amazed and exhausted at the same time. They are amazing because they are bright, adventurous, quick to adapt, and full of life. But they can also be exhausting because they get bored quickly, resist too much control, change direction fast, and often seem like they are always reaching for the next experience. Many parents look at a child like this and think, "My child is too hyper. My child is too hard to manage. My child won't settle down. My child needs more discipline. My child needs to learn how to sit still and listen." But what parents may actually be seeing is a child with number 5 energy. In numerology, number 5 is the energy of freedom, movement, curiosity, change, flexibility, adventure, and learning through direct experience. These children often feel most alive when they are discovering something for themselves. They do not just want to hear about life, they want to move through it. They want to test it. They want to experience it firsthand. When raised well, children with number 5 energy can grow into incredibly capable people. They can be brave, adaptable, open-minded, socially alive, quick learners, and deeply resilient in changing environments. They often carry a powerful sense of aliveness that can inspire the people around them. But when they are misunderstood, those same strengths are often treated like problems. They may be labeled too restless, too impulsive, too difficult, too distracted, too unpredictable, or too resistant to structure. And when they are raised under too much pressure to become someone quieter, smaller, and easier to control, they can grow up feeling like there is something wrong with the way they are built. In today's video, we are going to take a closer look at children with number 5 energy. We will talk about what they are really like, where parents often misunderstand them, and how to raise them in a way that turns their freedom and life force into strength instead of constant conflict. The first thing parents need to understand about number 5 children is this: they usually have a very strong need for freedom and real-world experience. These are not children who do well when everything is overly controlled, overly repetitive, or overly rigid. They usually need room to move, room to try, room to explore, and room to feel that they are participating in life rather than just being managed through it. If you ask a number 5 child to sit still for too long, they often lose energy fast. If life feels too repetitive, they get bored. If every step is tightly controlled, they can become resistant very quickly. This does not always mean they are trying to be difficult. It often means their nature needs movement, variety, and a sense of personal freedom in order to stay engaged. Many number 5 children naturally love trying new things. They like to go places, test things, ask questions, touch what interests them, and see what happens when they do something a different way. These are often children who learn best through direct experience. They do not always learn most deeply by being told. They often learn by doing, by experimenting, by moving, and by discovering through safe, real-life interaction. Another very important trait of number 5 children is that they often get bored quickly with too much repetition. This does not necessarily mean they cannot focus. Very often, it means they need stimulation, variation, or a sense of discovery in order to stay mentally connected. When something feels too dull, too repetitive, too lifeless, or too predictable for too long, their energy drops. Many parents see this and conclude that the child is lazy, undisciplined, inconsistent, or unable to follow through. But often, that is not the real issue. The real issue is that the child needs a more alive way of engaging with the world. Number 5. Children often come alive when something feels fresh, challenging, active, or open-ended. But when that sense of discovery disappears, they can lose momentum very quickly. That is why parents often experience them as enthusiastic at first and then suddenly uninterested. It is not always a lack of ability. Sometimes it is simply the way their energy works. Another key trait of number 5 children is that they often want some sense of personal choice. They usually do not respond well to being controlled step by step with no room to think, try, or decide anything for themselves. They do not like feeling trapped inside someone else's plan all the time. They want room to test, room to choose, room to find their own relationship to what they are being asked to do. This is why number 5 children often clash with highly controlling parenting. The tighter the grip, the stronger the reaction. The more they feel managed, the more they push back. The more they feel trapped, the more they want out. If parents do not understand this, they may assume the child simply hates rules. But many times, the child is not reacting against all structure. The child is reacting against the feeling of having no freedom inside that structure. Another beautiful strength in number 5 energy is adaptability. This is one of their greatest gifts. These children can often enter new environments and adjust more quickly than many others. They can often learn through change instead of being crushed by it. They can become flexible thinkers, brave explorers, and resilient people who are not easily frozen by the unknown. When raised well, number 5 children often grow into people who are willing to try, willing to move, willing to stretch, and willing to evolve. They do not always need life to stay the same in order to feel alive. But there is another side to that. Because they enjoy freedom and change, they can also become uncomfortable with too much routine, too much stillness, or too much repetition. If they are not guided well, they may develop a habit of always chasing what is new without learning how to stay with anything long enough to deepen. They may want freedom without learning responsibility. They may want movement without learning steadiness. They may want experience without learning self-direction. This is why number 5 children do not need their freedom crushed. They need to be taught that real freedom always requires self-management. Another thing parents need to understand is that number 5 children are often deeply curious. They want to know why. They want to know what happens if they try it differently. They want to test reality for themselves. They are often not satisfied by, just do it because I said so. Parents may enjoy this curiosity when the child is very young, but later, that same curiosity can become tiring. The child asks more questions. The child wants to test more things. The child does not easily accept one fixed answer. The child wants to understand by experience, not just by instruction. This kind of child can lose something very precious if curiosity is constantly shut down too early. Now let's talk about the more vulnerable side of number 5 energy. The first vulnerable point is that these children often do not do well under overly tight control. When life becomes too rigid, too scheduled, too restrictive, and too managed, they can start to feel emotionally trapped. When there is only one acceptable way to do everything, when every move is corrected, and when there is no breathing room, they can become deeply uncomfortable. When that discomfort builds, number 5 children often react in one of two ways. They may push outward by arguing, resisting, breaking rules, doing the opposite, or trying to escape the system. Or they may react in quieter ways by pretending to comply, losing motivation, checking out emotionally, or finding subtle ways to slip around the structure. The second vulnerable point is that they are often labeled as unstable. Adults say things like, "You never stay with anything. You are always changing your mind. You cannot just be still. You need to settle down." Those comments may sound small, but when repeated over time, they can shape a child's identity. A number 5 child can begin to feel that their love of movement, freedom, exploration, and variety is something bad. They may begin to believe that the most alive parts of them are exactly the parts adults do not want. The third vulnerable point is that number 5 children often react strongly to boredom. If life feels dry, repetitive, or emotionally lifeless, they disconnect fast. If learning feels like endless, forced repetition without meaning, they may resist. If discipline feels like control without explanation, they may rebel. That can make adults assume the child is irresponsible or immature. But very often, the child is reacting to a style of engagement that does not fit their nature. The fourth vulnerable point is that number 5 children can easily become too led by impulse if they are not guided well. They may move too fast, try too much, jump too quickly, or chase whatever feels exciting in the moment. That is where freedom can start turning into impulsiveness. And this is where parents need to be very clear. The goal is not to shut down the child's energy. The goal is to teach the child how to direct that energy. So, where do parents often misunderstand number 5 children? The first misunderstanding is that they think the child is simply too wild. But often, the child is not trying to create chaos. The child is exploring. The child is learning through movement. The child is using their body and experience to understand the world. The second misunderstanding is that they think the child doesn't listen. But sometimes the child is not rejecting all guidance. The child is reacting to being over-controlled. The third misunderstanding is that they think the child cannot focus. But number 5 children can often focus very well when something genuinely interests them. The real problem is that they lose energy in environments that feel too flat, too repetitive, or too disconnected from meaning. The fourth misunderstanding is that they think the child is too unstable to trust. But when number 5 children are guided well, they can become extremely capable, not because they stay still all the time, but because they learn how to move through life without losing themselves. So how should parents raise a child with number 5 energy? The first thing is this: give them freedom inside clear boundaries. This is one of the most important parenting principles for number 5 children. They need choice, but not total chaos. They need flexibility, but not the absence of structure. They need room to explore, but within safe limits. That can look like giving them options instead of one rigid command. You can let them choose whether to do reading first or homework first. You can let them choose between 2 outfits. You can let them choose between 2 safe activities. Choices like these help the child feel some ownership while still keeping the structure the parent needs. The second thing is this: teach through real-world experience, not just words. Number 5 children often learn best when they can do something, touch something, test something, and experience the result. Long lectures often slide right past them, but real-life learning, hands-on experience, movement, and natural consequence often teach them very quickly. The third thing is this: do not rely on excessive control. Too much control often intensifies resistance. Instead of tightening everything, make the boundaries clear. Be clear about the rule. Be clear about what is and is not okay. Be clear about what happens next. Then allow the child some room to take responsibility within that structure. The fourth thing is this: teach them that freedom is not the same as doing whatever they want. This is one of the deepest lessons number 5 children need. Real freedom comes with responsibility. Choice comes with consequence. If they want more freedom, they also need to develop more self-control. When parents teach this well, number 5 children can grow beautifully. They do not have to be broken in order to mature. They simply have to learn how to direct their own energy. The fifth thing is this: Keep life and learning fresh enough to stay engaging. Number 5 children usually do not thrive in an overly dull environment. That does not mean life has to be constantly exciting. It simply means they often benefit from variety, movement, change of pace, new experiences, and active forms of learning. That may mean changing the learning format sometimes, changing the order of a task, giving them movement breaks, letting them learn through games, giving them healthy adventure, or exposing them to new environments in meaningful ways. Their need for discovery can become a strength when it is fed in healthy directions. The 6th thing is this: be careful with labels. Do not let a number 5 child grow up hearing over and over that they are too much, too wild, too difficult, too hard to manage, or impossible to settle. Those labels can become identity. Instead, speak to the gift underneath the struggle. You can say, "You're very curious. You're very brave. You love to explore. You learn through experience. You have strong energy. You adapt quickly. You're open to new things." When children are named accurately, they have a much better chance of growing into themselves in a healthy way. The 7th thing is this: teach endurance without killing aliveness. This matters a lot. Number 5. Children need help learning how to stay with something a little longer, slow down a little more, think one step further ahead, and finish more than just what feels exciting at the beginning. But the way to teach that is not to suffocate them. Break tasks into smaller pieces. Use shorter stretches. Build in movement when needed. Change the rhythm when possible. And notice progress when they keep a commitment, even for one small step. The 8th thing is this: remember that behind all their need for freedom is a very powerful life force. These are not children built to shrink too much. They need to touch the world, move through it, test it, and learn from it. If parents spend all their energy trying to make them smaller, just because smaller is easier to manage, the child will either rebel harder or slowly go dim inside. And if you are listening to this and realizing that you have said things like, "Sit still, stop moving, you're too much, why can't you just settle down? You make everything harder. You always have to do something different," please do not rush into guilt. Many adults were raised in environments where quietness, predictability, obedience, and control were treated as the standard. So when they face a child who is fast, curious, freedom-loving, and full of movement, their first instinct is often to pull that child back into the familiar mold. But from this point on, you can do something different. You can start seeing more clearly. You can understand that behind your child's restlessness is often a drive to explore. Behind the resistance may be a need for autonomy. Behind the quick shifts may be a powerful life force that does not do well in emotional cages. What your child needs is not to be flattened. What your child needs is guidance. When raised well, number 5 children can grow into very strong people. They can become adaptable, courageous, open, alive, resilient, and deeply capable of learning from life itself. They can move through change without collapsing. They can expand without losing themselves. And they can bring tremendous vitality into the world. So if your child carries number 5 energy, remember this: your child is not impossible to manage. Your child is carrying a very strong need for freedom, movement, experience, and discovery. And your job is not to extinguish that. Your job is to help your child learn how to use it wisely. If you found this video helpful, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment so we know you want to continue this series on raising children through number energies. And most importantly, if you still do not know which number energy your child carries, leave your child's full date of birth in the comments. We will help you figure it out right away. Thank you so much for staying until the end of this video. See you in the next one.